everybody. I just wanted to thank Barry Cogert, our sponsor for the show today, founder of Jazz Angels, which preserves jazz in underserved areas. He's helped over 3,000 kids. Thank you, Barry. And if you want to contact and find out more info, you can check their website at jazzangels.org or contact Barry directly at barry@jazzangels.org. Thanks so much, Barry.
And we are live. Good morning and happy Thursday. Welcome to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network TV radio podcast #1 internet talk show. My name is Elana. Hello, and it's Elana with Your Health Vibes. And today, actually, take it back. My journey is to raise your heart, body, and soul vibes to the next level so you can transform your life today. Today we have a very, very special guest, Rabbi Fox. And today our topic is kind of just talking about more than a rabbi. Welcome, Rabbi Fox. I'm so blessed, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me, Elena. I'm so glad to be here. And, you know, it's I think a really important thing that we would have the opportunity in our lives when we're running all over the place to stop and think about, you know what, there is a way to live better, to think about it, to stop and reflect. So I'm really glad to have the opportunity to think about that and maybe even in the context of being a rabbi, of rabbi-ing as we sometimes joke, right?
Love it. And Rabbi Fox, would you mind just kind of telling us a little bit about yourself and just kind of know who the fabulous Rabbi Fox is?
Sure. Yeah, very, very kind, very kind. So, I'm a rabbi. I serve at Temple Israel of Long Beach, and I'm a California boy, a San Diego native. So I grew up, where people told me, that I was going to surf, and I did, and Tony Hawk was at the same skate park that I went to, but just a spoiler alert, he did much better in skating than I did. I found myself just drawn to all these things that kind of light your heart. So I actually originally left high school and moved up to Los Angeles from San Diego to pursue a career in jazz, because there was something about it that kind of helped me lift my heart. I felt like this can create moments where we all feel something there. Mm-hmm. And I did that for a while. And then, I was always kind of I was always kind of the Jewish nerd. So I always wanted to keep learning and all that kind of stuff. And I'll spare you the rest of the journey, but it eventually led me to wanting to learn more Jewishly, because I felt like that also lifted my heart, but it lifted everyone else's hearts as well.
And I love that you say that, because I'm very heart-centered too. And I think that's where we connect, is being so heart-centered and living in that joy and doing something that is fulfilling and, as what you said, fills your heart, because we all want to fill our heart and do something we like. And I think that's when we're our most authentic self, is when we're living our joy.
I think a lot about, I love to think. I love being a thinker and learning and writing and all of this. And we have a society, a community, it's shocker, right? We have a society, I think, that also encourages that, right? To live very much in our minds. And I think that one of the things that happens when we have an experience that, instead of getting us, even in school, right? And for good reason, we learn all kinds of things academically, but when something moves us, right? Like I keep thinking about the show, I know nobody else has seen the show, Ted Lasso, right? It's such a beautiful show, and I think one of the reasons why so many of us have watched this show and said there's something there is because it not only had good ideas, it has to have good ideas, right, but it made us feel something. We need the space to feel also. I'm with you. If it speaks to the heart, that's it's doing something right.
It definitely does. And what you say, our society does. We're always leading with our head, not our heart. And then it affects our gut too. And so many times why we get sick or things, because we're leading subconsciously head instead of heart, and showing up that way. So I love that you say that too. And we want shows. We want to be able to relate. We want authenticity. We want to see what you are on camera and off. And that's what, I try to portray for myself as like who you see me on camera, I'm the same off camera. And if you're, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be very upfront. So for me, that's one of the takes that I like to take on, is really leading authentically.
It's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about this, and I hope you don't mind if do you mind if I share a little bit? So I'm thinking a lot about this, even in the religious context, but that in a media context too, there was a big to-do when it happens often, but I was listening to an interview with Jason Bateman. He was talking about how long he had been married, and he said, the marriage in Hollywood sometimes is not such a long marriage, right? And there was a marriage of two people that split up, and the effect that it had on all of us was very strong. All the viewers, the readers, and there was a whole conversation that came up around it of the separation of that kind of public persona and the personal persona. I think that we have a need now, and we recognize that it has to be authentic. And even in the religious setting, right? You used to have this idea of you wanted to walk in, and the word awe, A-W-E, was a really important word for the religious experience. You wanted to walk into a synagogue, or I'm imagining it's a similar thing with the church, and walk in and see the sanctuary and go, wow, and be overwhelmed by it. And synagogue architecture, and I'm sure that a similar thing has happened with churches as well, has actually changed that. It used to be that the bima, the place where the Torah and the service was held, was way up here, and everyone else would sit way down here. And as they built new synagogues and sanctuaries, the bima got lower and lower and lower. And actually, one of the things that drew me to Temple Israel was that at Temple Israel, there is a little bit of a stage of a bima. It's literally about a step. Literally about this high. It is. And I love that, because it symbolizes the way that we relate to our spiritual selves as well. That it's not something way out there. It's not something far up and away. It has to be something right here around us, something authentic, and something real and not far removed.
Totally agree. And something so someone won't fall and break their neck, right? Just kidding.
Right, that too.
Have to leap and jump. And I love that you say that, because recently I just got to go to one of my girlfriend's son's bar mitzvahs, which you actually did. And I was saying, I love the tradition, I love the time, but I was saying how the bima was switched and how it was different, but how they made it even closer connection. I felt even closer this time with everything was turned around differently. It was a little bit lower, and I felt way more connected too. And so it was interesting to see what we grew up in and the changes that it has made, and the changes that you have made from just being there.
There are so many shifts that are happening religiously, and like many things in the world, those changes are happening exponentially. So whereas you would have a change in the religious world that would happen every 100 years, every 50 years, it seems like there are major shifts happening every 5 to 10 years. And so a lot of the time, I think for many of us, we walk into a sanctuary and see the religious space, and it's so different than what we might have seen before, because we have different needs, and so it grows and changes. And I honestly think that authenticity is a big part of it. Same thing for a rabbi. People don't, they used to want to walk into the rabbi's office and have the rabbi say, "This is the answer," right? And that was helpful. That was comforting, right? To walk in and say someone's got it. Right?
Yeah.
I don't have to have everything. And the thing that we need now is someone who can sit with us and say, "I'm here with you. Let me help you find your answer. Let me help you find your truth in this." And our religious experiences have changed to reflect that. It's a much more personal experience than I think it's ever been.
It really has been. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show and show up, is talking kind of why I did this more than a rabbi. So many times we get this stigma of oh my gosh, my rabbi, he's going to judge me and I can't tell him everything, or having that expectation. He's going to solve, he or she, or, whatever pronoun we want to go with. So With that being said, I feel like times have changed, and showing up like this and being comfortable and talking to someone, because we do have these expectations. We go in, we want them to solve. We go in, we think we're going to be judged. We go in, but we don't go in with that clear, like, conscious mind of authentically going in. I'm going in because I want to relate to you. I'm going in because I want to be seen. I'm going in because you're more than just a religious figure to me and whatnot. So what made you want to make a change? And also with the younger generation, we're coming up on this, and, how do you get away that stigma or things like, I know there's so many questions right now, but just all of the above of, to me, you're more than a rabbi. I feel comfortable with you. I feel like I can talk to you about whatever and not be judged. I feel like I can also get certain advice, but then vice versa. You can look at me and we're not just like, oh, this is just a congregant, or, oh, this is just this person. We can connect on a personal level, which I like, and there's no judgment there.
Yeah. I mean, I think, underneath all of it, there has to be, we're talking about, genuineness. There has to be a genuine understanding, and there might be a generational piece. I've never not been around women in leadership. I've never not been around friends who are attracted to people of the same gender. I've never, and so those, I'm first of all deeply moved to hear that is the space that I am a part of helping create, and it has to come from a real place. And I think there's an understanding, I think, in our community of having a communal voice in all of this. If you were to look at the popular books in Judaism from 50 years ago, 100 years ago, they would be looking for what is truth with a capital T, right? Like what is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. And for those of us who are fans of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, we know, of course, the answer is 42, right? And then of course it continues. What was the question? But they're looking for that kind of big picture answer, and so there was this sense of one person had the answer, and they would share that answer. And I think that it's shifted in our community, and we've always had this, but I think we're recognizing it in a stronger way. That I don't have any authority that anybody else doesn't also have. My hope is simply to help all of us come up with our own answers, to maybe know where a book might be on a shelf or a resource that might help us think in a certain way. And right. What happens from that is there's no, there can't be judgment, because even if I were to judge, it wouldn't hold water, it wouldn't hold weight, because that's not genuinely how we come up with those ansers. One of the things I love is that we because together. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go on. Yeah, no, go ahead.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
And not to harp on issues in the LGBTQ world, although it is June and Pride Month, and actually this Friday we are having Pride Shabbat at Temple Israel, and we are having a member of our extended community up from Los Angeles, but has many connections to this congregation, who is identifies as trans and will be leading the service and speaking as well about their experience.
Oh, I love that.
Really excited about that. And so what comes to my mind is this sense of authority that we have in the Torah. Many people have kind of reread it as, it doesn't really mean that, but it's pretty clear that there is a prohibition against homosexuality in the Torah. It says, don't lie, a man shall not lie with another man like he does with a woman. It's pretty clear. And we as a community have looked at that and said, that's not the only authority. We also, it's meant to get us to question, get us to wonder, and then we decide together as a community collectively. And we've simply looked at that and said, we don't agree. And so I think when that authority shifts from kind of a textual up here to everyone deciding together, and it's complicated how that works, but it does happen collectively, then you have to remove the judgment, because we're choosing for ourselves.
Right. And I love that you say that we're choosing for ourselves, like we're here to judge this person, that, everybody's always wanting. And also, I think too, a topic to say, when we bring in religion or this or that, and sometimes like I'm this, but then they're not standing for what it is. And so I think sometimes of the authenticity, it's like, I'm not like you're good, bad, like whatever. Oh, I'm a good Jew because of this. And like, there's no right or right. You are the one to know if you're good or bad or whatnot. There's no good or bad. It's all comes from the heart and that energy. But I think sometimes we put on this false, like, oh, I'm a good Jew, so I do A, B, and C. So this is going to clear everything I've done, and have that false, promise of that. I think we need, as I said, to show up authentically and claim who you are. And it's not even just about the religious aspect, it's the spiritual side of seeing it as well, and I think with all religions, we all relate, but we're all trying to pin each other against, like, this one is just like this one, you talk to them, oh, my holiday is like that, oh, I do this too. And it's like, I kind of like joke, we're all like sausages with casings over us. We all have the same stuff, we all are dealing, but we all just have maybe a different casing, but in reality, we're all the same underneath, and we all have the same organs. We all, have to have lungs to help us breathe. But yet, why are we making ourselves to be so different?
I think that's one of the greatest challenges of our world, is to find the ways that we are, truly individuals and can celebrate the unique featurings of those casings of, I feel like I like mint chocolate chip ice cream and vanilla is not my thing. I like them both. But,
yeah. I'm a
and
strawberry black cherry girl.
Strawberry, totally. Little Cherry Garcia. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And at the same time recognize that we are so profoundly connected with one another. It's complicated. And
someone actually just asked, why can we be authentic with some people and not with others? Great question.
I think part of that has to do with this question of it's interesting. I always wonder about small talk. Like, why do we chat? Like, why don't we just? And I've been there are places in the world where you go and they'll walk up and they'll say, how much money do you make? What's your relationship like with your mother? And that's like the introduction to their conversation. And it's kind of, wow, it's kind of off-putting. And I think one of the reasons is, well, yeah, exactly. One of the reasons is that we have small talk is to kind of find out who we're speaking with. Are we able to be vulnerable with this person? Are we going to find that there's a trust there? And so I think the reason why we can be authentic with some people and not with others is we feel like there's a trust there. And I would actually turn it around on us and say, I think that what that indicates to us is that we, as a listener, have the capacity and the ability to make hopefully just about anybody truly open up and be authentic with us if we're able to show them that we can be a loving, non-judgmental, caring person.
I love that you say that. That's what I feel, is that's the energy that you give. And I feel like I give that too to the people around me. People just even off the street tell me their life stories and feel that comfortable. But you're right. It's trusting someone and opening up and being vulnerable. But here it is too. Sometimes do you judge, not judge, but like, sometimes I don't like small talk, because it's like, if you really genuinely don't care, don't ask how my day is going. Like a little bit of small talk, because if I'm going to ask you, I will ask someone at the store. I will ask a random stranger. I'll ask, I'm the one leaving messages for my friends and things like that. But I truly care. But sometimes if someone is going to ask how my day is, I want you to generally be present and be there and appreciate. Because a lot of times we're asking and then like, so you say, how's your day? My day's great. I did this podcast. Well, I do a podcast and I do this. And it's like, no, we just asked you being present. Like, stop, pause, listen to what they say and think, do I need to comment, or are they asking to just listen? There's so many different things that I think we can glean from any number of different traditions. And I am constantly kind of moved by this central prayer that we have in Judaism. And I'm not often the one who's like, hey, look at the prayers. There's different ways. And there's a prayer that's the Shema. It's the central prayer in our service. And without getting too kind of nerdy into the word of it, it doesn't say like hey, sometimes hear and listen. It says like, hey, pay attention, stop, focus on this and listen.
there's I also I understand that somebody might be busy, anything like that, but I also I want, if someone's going to ask me how I'm feeling or how I'm doing, like let's sit, let's be together. And I feel like so much of what can make the world a more compassionate place and us be able to be more real with each other is the ability to really listen, to stop. And when you ask that question and somebody says, I've got so much going on, you hear that not just they're saying there's a lot going on, but I need you to stop and listen to me for a moment.
Right. Actually, we are going to have to go ahead and take a 1 minute break. So, everybody, this has been so great. Please come back, stretch for 1 second, only 1 second, because that's all you got. And we'll be back. I'm host Elana with your Health Vibes with Elana. We are on Going Solo WGSN Network, and we will be back. And if you need anything else, my number is 562-235-8410, or you can reach me at yourhealthvibes.com. We'll see you soon.
Hi, I'm John Thomas. I want to share with you a professional products and services directory we call Going Solo Directory. And you need to check this out. If you want exposure to your business or are seeking professional product or services, this directory has it all. And that membership, for the many special features, you get the benefit of a worldwide exposure with a 40-minute video interview on an international business show showcase. All this for just one low annual fee. For more information, contact GoingSoloDirectory.com.
Hi, everybody. We're back. I'm host Elana, your Health Vibes with Elana, and we are here with Rabbi Fox today talking about More Than a Rabbi. So we've answered some questions, and we might be getting some more popping up. So and throughout this, I might just say, hey, blah, 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 answer your question. So would like to kind of get back to a few other things, but in this as well, we will have some people pop in and ask us a few questions. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being back. Thank you, Tony. That's the boyfriend. Got to give him a shout out. Tony met Rabbi Fox and Lindsay. Lindsay was saying connection is so important. I don't know if we want to talk a little bit more about that of, community and connection, but thank you, Lindsay, for being on, and maybe we can see why connection is so important.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. I think a lot about connection and meaningful connection, right? I mean, in Southern California, we'll drive and we're connected with all the people that are on the freeway with us, but it's not a real connection. It's not a deeper connection. And even in New York, where you're on the subway, you can see each other, you can hear each other. There's not a connection there. And we've also all kind of been in those social situations where you're talking with people, but there's not a deeper connection there. And I think that's why this kind of compassion can be such an important piece. In fact, without getting too nerdy, I'll just say there's a philosopher, Emmanuel Levinas, who was a French philosopher and tried to boil down what is the root of our understanding for anything. And he said it's our ability to relate to other people, to recognize that when you're talking with another person, there's someone there. And so I think a lot about, not just connection, not just being with each other, but having real and meaningful connections. And that's honestly where I think religious communities can really step in. There's a popular kind of piece in marketing of trying to create community around a product. I'm a guitar player, so there's a tremendous amount of kind of creating discussion around a particular guitar pedal or guitar, amplifier or whatever. And it's fun to talk with other people about, hey, why do you like that particular, fuzz box as opposed to another one? At the same time, it's not the same conversation I have with someone when we're talking about, you're thinking about your 13-year-old joining the world of teenagers and thinking about what it means to be an adult, or someone that you would share Passover with and sitting around and saying, listen, for thousands of years, we know that people have been in need. And so we are saying that we should feel ourselves like we're slaves so that we can have a deep and meaningful connection over this conversation of how to work and make the world a better place. I really think that so much of connection is not just being in the same room together, but having the opportunity to make meaningful connections. In fact, I'll just mention one more thing, and then
I love
the word. There's a word in Hebrew, chabruta, and it's an opportunity for learning where two people will sit and they'll open up a book and they'll sit across the table from each other. And actually, there are some places where they'll gauge the level of learning at how loud people's voices are. Are they really engaged in this conversation, right? And it says actually in the oldest rabbinic text, in the Pirkei Avot, that when two people sit together and there's meaningful learning and conversation, there's something holy there. There's something that's elevated. I think that we need not just the opportunity to be in the same room together, but to have an opportunity like you and I are having, Elana, where we're able to get into something meaningful and be vulnerable and share something deep. And that connection is not just, on the surface, but it gets to something deep.
Not that you're just my rabbi. You're more than the rabbi.
Well, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. Yeah.
Very big compliment. But you know what I mean? Because as I said, like sometimes, people think like, oh, my parents are on. Hi,
hey,
Mom.
Rob. Hi.
What I like about this is what I said is like feeling comfortable talking about, not making it religious, not doing. And as I said, you're not just the rabbi, because people think, oh, it's just my rabbi. Oh, you're just my workout instructor. Oh, the title doesn't define who you are. That's not who you are. You are who are from who you are yourself. And I like that you say about authenticity of conversations. You know what? Here it is. I don't want to do small talk anymore. If you generally don't care, don't ask me how my day is. And then just like subconsciously walk away. Like if you want to have a deep, genuine conversation, then yes. And I think too, like when I get excited about something, my voice raises, like, you can hear it and the energy. And I think that is amazing because you feel that passion. You feel it from my like core, my gut, my overall well-being. And I think that's hard to get that from someone because, we think, oh, I'm going to be judged. Oh, I can't be myself. But when you find that person connect that lights you up just as much as they light you up is an incredible feeling.
It's a rare joy also to help someone else in that space. I mean, when you talk to teachers, especially school teachers, and I, would consider myself a teacher also. That is formally the role that I have, although there's a whole lot of other things that I get to do. And I love it. Honestly, that's one of the things I love about it is that every day is different. For example, this morning, before we spoke, I was on the phone with someone who, not to bring it down, but had just lost their spouse, and having the opportunities for those meaningful connections, it's a real privilege. And the reason why we do it is for those connections. Like some people teach science because they really like science, but if they only like science, then they probably are just going to go into it because go into research.
Yeah.
You teach because you want to have those connections
and share and guide and show, because I think too, we're all teachers, and we can all learn from each other. As I said, we all have a piece to the puzzle. We're not just the puzzle maker. So you have a piece to the puzzle, I have a piece to the puzzle, and that's what makes the world go round. But I feel like lately in the society, everybody wants to be the puzzle maker. I want to be up here. I want to do it all. And for me, I don't want to do it all. I want community. I like when I teach, I do like one-on-ones, don't get me wrong, but I love when I get to teach a class and have that energy. I love running a group circle and seeing, relating and having that feeling. And, because we all are different, and just being able to put ourselves in someone else's shoes to show up like that. And I feel like that's what you do. You put yourself in someone else's shoes, and you're not just as I said, just say, well, I'm the rabbi and this is how it goes. And this is the answer. I feel a lot of times in these religious things, because the matriarch and the higher above, they're the only ones that you listen to. They're the only ones that get credit for. They're the only ones. But in reality, no, we're all, as I said, a part of it. So I love that you're not like, oh, look at me. And you are, here I am. How can I help and serve you? I like to serve others just as much as you do.
Well, you're very kind. Very kind.
Speak the truth. Come on now.
If I can, I'll mention that I think it can be hard at times to be fully present for another person. I think one of the reasons why we might get into that conversation and someone's mind might kind of walk away is because they're tired, or they have something that's difficult. And I think that one of the things that we can do, each of us individually, to be there for everyone else, and hopefully to be there in a way that can truly offer them love and care and compassion, is for us to care for ourselves. And I think that's, Elana, that's such a powerful part of what you're doing with this podcast is giving us, the opportunity to stop and think about it, and giving us tools also to be able to do that inner work, so that when we sit down with someone, we can really be present, because we say, okay, I've got a lot going on in my world, and I can stop for a minute and be there with this other person.
Great. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. And I was wanting to brief on that. Sometimes, I was having this discussion with my friend. So when you call a friend, you call someone just in general, and you want to vent, asking them, do you have the space? Asking them, are you able to show up? And then as you authentically, can you say to a friend, or you want that trust, you know what, Rabbi Fox, I'm here to listen, but I'm right at a 20% today. So I want you to know I want to show up, but right now this is all I can give. So I think when we show up, I think sometimes you want that expectation to have that person show up for you when they're going through something, and to be present. But I think the best way is being vulnerable and saying, you know what, I got you. Do you need me to listen? Do you want a response? Here, where's I'm at, where are you at? Even in a relationship or marriage, I just saw this thing. No marriage is 50-50. They were saying you show up and you say, okay, I'm not married, but I say to my partner, you know what, Tony, today I'm only at a 20. What do you got? He's like, I got an 80. I got you. But we rely too much on having a 50-50 and make it even. And you tit for tat. There's no tit for tat. So to you, how do you show up for that? Or do you think people should be more authentic and say, you know what, this is where I'm at. This is what I can give.
So part of that is trying to really work on self-awareness and knowing, because when you're running from thing to thing, you can lose touch with the fact that oh, whoa, wait a minute, I'm tired. I think one of the things that always surprises me is on Friday, Shabbat rolls around, the day of rest every week on Friday. And I'm often surprised at oh, I am tired, and so being aware of that in order to be able to share that, I think it's, that's part of the work, is recognizing that. And then setting boundaries can be important, and saying, I'm not available because, I have, for me, especially, I have a 4-year-old at home. And it's I'll be totally honest. In this work, it's not at all uncommon for me to see a D in the morning when I get up. And I see a D a little bit, and I help a D get ready for the day. And then by the time I get home, a D's asleep. And there can be a few days like that in a row. And so, Robert and or Debbie, I see that's a great question. And so having time where I say, you know what, right now I need to be with my kid. And so, I'm not available to schedule something, during that hour of that day or whatever it might be, and setting boundaries in that way, or even, recognizing that I have 15 minutes and then stopping and breathing. I try every week. I haven't done it in a few weeks, so it's a good example of needing to kind of get back into it. But
no judgment on you.
Sorry?
Yeah, I said no judgment, even though you said I haven't.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're still doing it, acknowledging it.
Thank you. Yeah, so thank you, and yeah, I just a reminder to myself to set out. I set time to walk to the beach every week. I walk down to the ocean. I see the water. There's something about being there and seeing the water that just kind of resets me. And I come back, and then of course the last is that self-care that those boundaries let you set.
Yeah, I love that. Having a morning routine. So actually, Deb Rob Feldman, I don't know, mom or dad, which one asked this question, but a question is, so many times it says, what is a good intro besides how are you? What is another way to present and not get into a heavy conversation? If you do care enough, you, instead of saying how are you, because I feel that's a typical question like you go to as a safety net. Is there any other way or way you can present yourself that you have a suggestion for?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's two parts of that. One is, we talked about authenticity and genuineness. Part of it is genuinely knowing, if you know that person already, what might be going on in the world and asking about it. If you know that they just had a trip, asking about it and getting into those things where, you can have a wonderful conversation, a fun conversation with one another. And if you don't want to get into those deeper kind of, hey, Deb.
Thank you.
If you're not in a place where you're able to either emotionally or time-wise or whatever, get into those deeper things, then you're asking about something that is a meaningful connection. Hey, tell me about, I know for Deb and Rob, like I know you just went to the game. Like how was the game?
Right.
Asking about things that are going on in our lives.
Yeah.
100%. And then I think if you do want to get into a deeper conversation and you do kind of have the space, there are kind of tropes of things that we say, like, how are you? How's your day going? Things like that. And thinking of a different way to word that same question can cause us to get into the same place, but to really think about it. Yeah. So instead of saying, how are you? You can ask, like, how are you feeling today? Or something I'll ask and often say is like, what's going on in your world? And
I like that because then it's very open-ended. It's not like, how are you? What's going, it's their pressure, like what's going on in your world. So then someone can engage, like they get to choose what they want to. They could say, oh, I'm doing a podcast today, or, oh, I'm doing this, or, oh, my day's kind of, but I want people to show up. I don't want people like, oh my God, my day's so perfect. And it's fine. If it's not, you're just saying, you know what? So then someone can relate. And going back to the authenticity of it, so someone just asked, I have just gone through an authenticity discussion with a family member. It will dictate the outcome of continuing the relationship. My responsibility is to be authentic with myself first. Ooh, that was good.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the difficult things about being authentic is that there are times where you're being authentic and the other person's being authentic. And as long as you can be kind to one another, you get to a point where you realize it's not going to get deeper. You're in different places or you have different needs. And hopefully, ideally, you do meet and then you can go, 100 times deeper because you're both being real in that space.
Right. And not being like, well, I'm more real, or that's, once again, getting the tit or tat. meeting the person where they're at and not assuming, not writing the story. And what you said, you have to care enough to love yourself. I don't care. Everybody says you got to love, love, love. You have to care enough to love, because if we don't care, then you're, and I think too, using the word love sometimes, not in a negative way, but we use it too much. Well, if you love me, you'll do this, and I love you, and the forgiveness of love. So I think it becomes a word that is hard to trust sometimes because it's used in the wrong way. So speaking of love and things like that, is there anything of you when using the word love, or not pinning it against someone, that if you love me, you'll do this, but you have to love yourself enough to be able to do what you're going to do and care enough, then project it to someone else?
Yeah. I mean, I might go a little bit afield, so bring me back. But
no, I just all these questions, and I feel like a chicken with my head cut off. Sometimes like, blah, blah,
blah. I'm loving the conversation, Elena. You're doing great, and I thank you for opening the space for me to be able to share it with you. Speaking of authentic spaces, so it's interesting. I think about there's a story in the Talmud, which is the major rabbinic text. Things are mirrored. It's over there. And it's full of stories. And there's a story where somebody goes to these two major rabbis, Hillel and Shammai, and first asks Shammai, tell me everything that there is to know about Judaism while standing on one foot. And Shammai, often is the straw person in the Talmud, chases the person out, says, that's ridiculous. I can't teach you everything. There's too much to know. And so that same person goes to Rabbi Hillel, walks in and says, teach me everything there is to know about Judaism while standing on one foot. And Rabbi Hillel stops and thinks for a moment. And I love what he does here. He turns back to this student and he says, what is hateful to you, don't do to another person. The rest is commentary. Go learn the commentary. Now, there's a number of things that I love about that. One is that he says the rest is commentary because it's complicated, right? The specifics of it are really where the rubber meets the road, and it's important to learn how to be kind, how to do that. The other thing that I love is that he takes a phrase in the Torah and he turns it on its head. There is no place in the Torah where it says, what is hateful to you, do not do to another person. It actually says, love your neighbor as yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, I think part of that is this idea that you have to love yourself in order to offer love for your neighbor. But what Hillel does is he reminds you of the compassionate piece of this also. Mm-hmm. In the teaching, he says, what is hateful to you, don't do to another person. You're asking me to do something that I can't really do. And so in this moment, I'm hopefully going to teach you about this experience. I'm asking you, student, to have compassion on me as a teacher. That in and of itself is the lesson. And by learning that compassion, you're really learning most of what you need to know. So you have to start with that self-love in order to be able to share love with another person. And of course, that leads to compassion.
Right. Well, one more quick question, and then we got to wrap up. We have just a couple more minutes. Question to ask ourselves about authenticity. What am I afraid would happen if I shared my experience right now with this person? How will I feel if I don't share what I'm thinking and feeling? If I weren't afraid, what would I most want to say to the person right now? So great question, Linz. And then if we can answer these questions, we can be authentic. So we have about 1 minute and then we got to get going. But if you want to brief on that for one quick second. Thank you, Lindsay. Great questions.
Yeah. I mean, I think these are the questions that we can ask ourselves of, what is if I knew that I was going to be received with love and with compassion, what would I ask this person? And even that self-knowledge can be helpful in the sense of gauging, I mean, honestly, there are situations where, we're not going to be received with love and compassion from that person. And so knowing what we wish
not love themselves.
And hoping that person can have a love, for themselves. Yeah. And so having knowledge of what would I, if I could ask this person anything, what would that question be? That can help you either at least get part of what you need out of that conversation, or even just be aware of what your own feelings are. So again, that you can in turn be compassionate for that other person. The more we can be aware of our own needs, the more we can be for the person we're with.
And ask for our own needs.
And ask for them, right?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to thank you. This has been one of the best. Just great conversation. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being you. I honor you. I see you. And just, this is Rabbi Fox. He serves Temple Israel of Long Beach. Just so grateful for you to be here. And I just wanted to thank everybody who showed up today. My name's Elana. You can reach me at ef11ca@gmail.com. My number is 562-235-8410, yourhealthvibes.com. And just thank you for being here. We are today here with WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, #1 podcast network. And if you would like to reach Rabbi Fox, you can reach him at...
it's just Rabbi Fox at TILB, that's Temple Israel of Long Beach, TILB.org. And if you go onto the website, TILB.org, you'll find that information too.
All right, everybody, I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope you enjoyed this. And one thing, call someone today, tell them that you love them, give a stranger a compliment, smile at someone, and dance like no one's watching, maybe naked. Bye for now, everybody.
Bye, everyone.